So I have the iPhone 17 Pro here and just been out here in the mountains taking a bunch of test shots so that we can take a look at the image quality coming out of these cameras here. And we're going to compare it to the iPhone 16 Pro. We're mainly going to be focused on the new telephoto lens because that's really the biggest upgrade as far as the rear camera system. But we will look at the other lenses as well. But anyways, I don't want to waste too much time. Let's go ahead and take a look at some shots. Alright, so here in Lightroom I have a bunch of landscape images that I captured with the 16 Pro and the 17 Pro. I shot everything in Pro RAW format using the native photo app. And I also used a tripod along with a self-timer so I didn't introduce any camera shake. So the settings won't be identical for each image set because I didn't shoot manually with the third-party app. But the settings are close enough for some useful comparisons. I also have some night sky examples that we'll look at towards the end of the video, so stick around for that. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at our first comparison. Alright, so on the left we have the 16 Pro's 5x lens, and on the right is the 17 Pro's 4x lens. And globally the images look basically identical in terms of sharpness. Now I do see a color difference. Looks like the phones probably use different white balance settings, but it's not really a huge deal or anything. But it does look like the 16 Pro is leaning more towards magenta a bit. And I'm also seeing some more contrast on the 16 Pro image. So basically it looks like the phones didn't process the images exactly the same, but I don't think it's a big deal. Now with looking at the images globally like this, keep in mind that each image is only taking up around 4 to 4.5 megapixels of area on my computer monitor. So we're going to go ahead and zoom into 100%. That way we have a 1-to-1 pixel ratio between the images and the computer screen. And now you can see that resolution difference, 12 megapixels versus 48. Those 48 megapixels do allow us to see more detail, but to my eye it doesn't really look like we're gaining much of anything in terms of sharpness. We can get a better sense of that by downscaling the 17 Pro image to 12 megapixels. And now you can see that in terms of sharpness, there really isn't much of a difference. I do again notice the contrast difference, but the overall sharpness is basically the same. So here's another shot using the 5x and 4x lenses. And the images look basically the same globally here, aside from the focal length difference. Let's go ahead and take a closer look. And both shots look pretty good to me. Seeing a lot of detail in these rocks, but again I don't really see a sharpness difference. So basically the 17 Pro 4x lens is giving us similar sharpness as the 16 Pro 5x lens, but at a higher resolution. Let's go ahead and switch to using the 8x mode now, which is just a 12 megapixel crop from the 48 megapixel image. And yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I'd say the sharpness holds up. I think having the 8x option on the 17 Pro is pretty nice. But let's see what happens if we were to crop the 16 Pro 5x image to around that 8x and then upscale back to 12 megapixels. It does look like the 17 Pro image is a little bit better. There's just more clarity and sharpness here. Now I wouldn't say it's by a ton. I'd say maybe 10 to 20% more sharpness if I had to put a number to it. And here's just another example taken with the 8x mode. It looks pretty good overall. It's not the sharpest in the world, but definitely great for a phone camera. And here's another example. We are basically seeing the same thing as the previous results. We get a higher resolution on the 17 Pro, but the lens sharpness does look pretty similar between the two. I also took a shot at 5x on the 17 Pro by digitally zooming, and then I downscaled it to 12 megapixels. And here we're getting a slightly better result out of the 16 Pro. The sharpness is just a hair better, and I think that the 16 Pro shot has more contrast, which is making the image look nicer as well. Alright, so here's one more. This time I wanted to test out the digital zoom. So the 16 Pro can zoom into 25x, and then the 17 Pro can use digital zoom up to 40x. So currently we have no digital zoom in these images. Let's go ahead, we'll switch to 25x on both. And to my eye, it does look like the 17 Pro is a little bit better. Now, is it a huge difference? No, it's not a huge difference, but it is a slight improvement. And now let's switch to 40x on the 17 Pro. And it does look like the quality dropped a bit, but hey, it's still nice to be able to zoom in further on the 17 Pro. So for this one, I wanted to do something a little bit closer to the subject. Let's go ahead and zoom into 100%. And here we're getting nice detail and sharpness from both phones. And you can see what that 48 megapixels is giving us. A lot more resolution. But again, the overall sharpness isn't really much different between the two. Alright, so next we have some ultra-wide shots. Now there isn't a hardware difference between the phones with the ultra-wide camera, but I wanted to take a test shot anyway, and I focused on the foreground for this image, so let's take a look there. And it looks like there's a white balance difference, but the overall image quality is basically identical. Really no difference here as you'd expect. Now I also wanted to look at the main 1x camera, so here's a shot using those. And overall, no difference here either. Both images look great to me. And here's an example using the 2x mode on both phones. Now the exposure is not identical here, but if we look at the overall image quality, I'd say there's really no difference here at all. Alright, so next let's take a look at some shots using the night mode. So I used the 30-second option for these images, and you might notice at the top that it says 10 seconds and not 30, so I think that the phones may be taking 3 10-second exposures and then blending them together for a cleaner shot. But anyway, both images look nice on a global level here. But let's go ahead and take a closer look. And to me they look mostly the same, but I am noticing some weird lines on the 17 Pro. They aren't super noticeable, but I'm definitely seeing a bunch of little white lines that don't quite look like stars. I'll go ahead and put the mouse cursor right by some of them so you can see what I'm talking about. Now I do see a few of them actually on the 16 Pro image as well. There's some right here. But to me it just looks like there's more of them on the 17 Pro image. It must be due to the way that the images are being processed. Maybe it's merging the dimmer stars together or something like that. But I'm not going to complain too much here about it because I mean the image is still good overall, especially for a phone. Let's take a look at another example. Yeah, still seeing some of those little white lines. But again, I still think the shots are great considering that it's a phone. Now, I tried some night shots with the ultra-wide camera as well, but as you can see, it doesn't take good shots. I mean, I tried several times and you just can't get good shots from that lens. So I also tried using the telephoto lenses, but apparently the phones still use that main camera and then just crop in, so it doesn't actually use the telephoto lens. So this shot here, the Pleiades star cluster, really doesn't look that great. So basically, when doing astrophotography with the iPhone, I'd say just stick to using the 1x main camera because you can actually get some decent results with that lens. Alright, so after looking at all these images, what's my conclusion here? Well, for this type of photography, I'd say that the 17 Pro is a little bit better than the 16 Pro, but it's not by a ton. I mean, yeah, you do gain the higher resolution telephoto camera and the ability to shoot in that 8x mode in 12 megapixels, but I only found that mode to be a little bit sharper than just cropping the 16 Pro image and then upscaling. That said, it is nice to have the option in the camera app to natively shoot 8x. Now, as far as the 48 megapixel telephoto sensor, I mean, yeah, it's cool, but the lens isn't really any sharper than the lens on the 16 Pro in order to really take advantage of that higher resolution. The 48 megapixels does allow for the 8x mode though, so it is advantageous in that regard. Now, as far as the night mode shots under the stars, I thought that the 17 Pro actually got slightly worse due to what I think was merging smaller stars together into those little white lines. And I'm just wondering if there's some processing differences going on or something like that. So overall, the iPhone 17 Pro has a fantastic camera system, especially for a smartphone.
and you know, it's a mild improvement over the 16 Pro. And keep in mind that I didn't cover the front-facing camera or any of the other improvements found in the 17 Pro. So would I recommend it? Well, if you already have a 16 Pro, I probably would not recommend switching, at least not for landscape photography. I mean, I suppose some of the other features may make it worth it to you, but based on my tests in this video, I wouldn't upgrade. If you have an older iPhone and are looking to upgrade, then yes, by all means get the 17 Pro, especially if you have an iPhone 13 series or older. If that's the case, then you would actually get upgraded sensors in all 3 of the rear cameras. But anyways, I hope these tests were useful for you. Go ahead and check the video description for a Sandmark discount code if you're interested in getting some iPhone lenses or accessories. But that's it for now. I'll see you on the next video.